Hello, everybody. We are once again back for some more awesome gameplay.
Oh, hello.
We are going to be doing Galarian Darmanitan VMax, which is the new water type. It's really an ice type Pokemon, but it's labeled as water. Anyways, we're doing Galarian Darmanitan VMax, and we are playing against Pikarom. Now, Pikarom is a deck that just won't die, right? It's just always good forever. And the version that Ryan is running is basically, he doesn't have any updates for Vivid Voltage in it. Now, could you add certain things for Vivid Voltage? Maybe. I don't know what those would be. I haven't looked into that. But it's still just a good deck, straight up. So playing a new deck against a very well-established deck is always going to be hard. And I think what you'll see with Galarian Darmanitan VMax, I hope I'm saying that right, is the version I have may not be perfectly optimal, but it is a comeback deck. Once this deck gets up, and if you can set 2 Pokemon up that can attack, boy, howdy, this deck can come back. And you see that in these videos. We discuss a lot of things. Some of this is a little bit longer gameplay, but we do discuss a lot in this game, in these games, like what the strategies are. So definitely stick around, listen to that. And just know that some of the audio, just like the last couple of videos, these were all filmed at the same time. So the noise gate is a little aggressive. It cuts off our audio from time to time because we're not talking loud enough. That is fixed for the future. I've taken the noise gate off entirely. I was just trying to be a little extra fancy, but mistakes were made. Anyways, just something to know, but hopefully you still enjoy it. And yeah, we will jump into some gameplay soon. But first, I want to give a shout out to Channel Fireball. If you want to support my channel, this YouTube channel and other things, you can check them out. Use the code Gyroshawn when you buy anything from there, whether that's code cards, future Pokemon card sets that they have in stock, or even if you play Magic too. I mean, the Pokemon card game is kind of difficult at the moment. It's not in the best state of the meta. Maybe the new set will fix that. Anyways, yeah, but you'll support me if you use the code Gyroshawn and if you sign up for Channel Fireball Pro. I would just recommend the $10 a month tier. You get $10 in credit. Bada bing, bada boom. The more stock they have, the better. So you can use that credit, but it builds up over time. Anyways, shout out to them, and let's get into the video. All right, so we are going to be going out. I made some changes to the deck after our first recording, but this is Galarian Darmanitan VMax here against Pikarom. Old faithful, old reliable.
Not quite as old as some of the decks that I would want to be playing, but it's
long. It's a long in the tooth deck.
It is mature.
Oh.
It is tried and true.
Fine wine.
People thought it was dead, and they were wrong.
They're always wrong about that.
This deck will not leave us until it rotates.
Hello again, buddy.
Hi.
Okay. Heads or tails?
I'll take
Tails.
Hey.
Already, it's going better for me. Okay, bud. Love you, bud. I gotta make a video. Come on. I'll go first again. Right. We'll try this again. Okay. Already it's better. What that's worth. It's technically better.
Technically.
Yeah.
Huh?
Now starting a Fion. So I'm already happy.
Happy. Not as sad.
Okay. Luck. Cut bolt and start again. I mean, it's not terrible.
It's a great start. My favorite start.
Actually, evolution in.
Outside of Tapu Koko.
And I'm going to Pokemon Communication that right back in. Calm down. Go ahead.
Patient bucket. And pat. Much better start.
Yeah.
Glad I put the evolution instant in. Don't have enough Pokemon to warrant a bunch of. Fine. Natural. We've hit 3 out of 3 crushing
Yeah.
hammerheads. Oh yeah. It's pretty good. It's not bad. Okay. This. Shuffle. Bottom. Is that the last card you have in hand?
Yeah.
Okay, you putting all those down?
Yes. Thought I was
No, you're good.
demonstrating that. I like to go, but Marnie and bucket.
And you're sitting there like, okay, well, then it gets me 1 extra card, but Marnie gets me 1 less and disrupts my opponent. That's the right call. Save it to Dene for later. Okay. Okay. Nice. I do like you getting rid of a boss. That is nice. Start already? Like you do. Choo-choo. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you know.
That was a turn. That was so gross. All of that. Turn. Nom down. Patch. Actually, no, I'm not. Dene it all away. Right. Trying to think like that I can do. Okay. Okay. Got a tail. Oh no. Oh no. Okay, we got another tails.
That was the averages demanded that be the case.
Okay. All that Mark had to do is a little bit of work against you. I have no idea what you had in hand, but
Well, that's
I'm
the thing.
like,
I don't know what the optimal strategy, right?
well, it was the only thing I could do, right?
Yeah.
Like, so I didn't have an option, but it's just me hoping.
It's just so this board is already so set up
Yeah,
that there's like
not a ton I can do.
there's not a lot that needed to be done,
Yeah,
right? Like, question is ride with Boltund, try and
set something.
right. I keep wanting to get rid of my hand.
nice thing, depending on what I can draw out of. I mean, you probably have about 2. You are on a clock. If
Yeah.
I can like not this or whatever can't be killed in 2 turns. That's an interesting. I mean, it's just an interesting thing to
Yeah,
think through, right?
that's
It's like
true.
you get put on a 2-turn clock, basically.
Yes.
That's very bad for me. This one's actually like, I think a lot. I don't know. Maybe I'm not seeing like what you're seeing. I feel like it's a lot closer now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unless you can surprise me, I think it'll be.
Yeah, that's fair.
Lightning.
Yeah, I guess the paralysis.
How do you?
Do you want to just know straight up?
Yeah.
So
Because I think I see it differently.
you have. So there's a couple of ways that I think you could win and then I could win.
Sure.
Knocking this out and assuming that I can't get another Frostmoth set up, so I can't power anything
I
else
don't
up.
need to. I have 3 prizes left.
Sure,
If I
but
knock that out, it's
you can't
dead.
knock it out in 1 turn, right?
That's true.
So you could either go route, or you could go the route of Eldegoss bossing the Snom up to say, I'm not going to allow you to set another Darmanitan VMax up or whatever. But what that does is you take 1 prize and you allow this to attack without any damage on it.
Right.
And then you lose.
That's not happening.
Yeah, exactly. So when you got the Eldegoss, I was like, oh, well, you could. And I'm like, no.
No, that was to shuffle the deck. Because you had Marnied cards to the bottom of the deck that I
Yes.
didn't want on the bottom of the deck.
Yeah.
I had to shuffle it.
That's fair. The other thing that I was thinking is the Alolan Sand /GX. If I get the Telescope, I win next turn. If I get, all I have to do is get Telescope, the GX, Frostmoth, I win. Because it does 160, it would do 130 to all of your bench, which would take these
True.
4 prizes.
True.
So that's why I'm saying, like, I think there is,
Yeah,
It's surprisingly close.
I hadn't considered the sand.
yeah. And you can't afford to boss it up.
You can.
Because if you boss it up, though, you leave this healthy to attack for 2 turns. Again, you can't do, because then it would just knock this out by doing
Assuming I
180.
can't boss twice.
That's true, but
I can kill that.
you could.
I
On
bring-
this turn?
I bring this up, and I full blitz to Choo
to
Choo
this. Yes, that's true.
and
yeah,
kill
yeah.
that.
Yes,
I can do that, and
can
then
do
I
that.
can lightning ride.
If you boss 2 turns in a row, I'm just. It's interesting to think this
Yeah.
out, because I think that this is as awful as my board state seems in many ways, and it is.
Yeah,
I think in some ways, though, it's actually like a lot strangely close.
It is close, right?
Yeah.
The one thing that matters a lot is,
I have to find
that-
the piece.
well, also that you can't kill this with that.
Yeah, I definitely cannot.
Because of
I'm
the
10
big
damage
chart,
short.
right.
Exactly.
So, like, if I bring this up and kill something else, you can't revenge kill this.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah,
that makes it close. That makes it less. That makes me feel a little safer,
Okay.
right?
This is fascinating. I genuinely, I'm like, I really want to see how this plays out, because, like, a big part of it is going to be what I have in hand.
How many cards do you have?
rude. How dare you? This is a moment though where I'm seeing the Alolan Sand Slash and being like, that is really powerful.
Yeah.
Right turn.
Yeah, for sure. Sorry.
No, it's fine.
I think actually I should just use hand because I can always quick ball
Exactly.
that.
Yeah, seeing this play after I said it, like seeing that play, you're like, oh yeah,
I had forgotten
that would
about
win
the
you the
Alolan
game.
Sand Slash.
I think that yeah, I mean, like in a real tournament, nobody would give away that strategy.
Yeah,
but
yeah,
like,
yeah.
I do think it's interesting to discuss how that probably was the correct play potentially.
Yeah. Yeah, and
Knock that out. Throwing it all onto that choo-choo.
if you have a crushing hammer, I should not be caught short because you have some way of removing one energy.
Fair.
Right? Like, if I'm putting it all in the choo-choo, I should really be.
That prevents
Does.
Oko.
Yeah.
Vicious buck.
All right. This is Sean from the future here. I'm just going to take over narrating this game. The camera went off and then the audio gets really weird. I had some OBS issues here. So I will just take over. But basically, if I'm looking at what I'm doing here, I'm just trying to thin out the deck a little bit, shuffle the cards up again after the Marnie, get my other Frostmoth out so I can power up the other Galarian Darmanitan VMax. So the interesting thing about it is, we discussed a lot in the prior turn, what he could have done, what Ryan could have done. And it was just, I think he had a lot of interesting things. But what I like about this Galarian Darmanitan deck is that, it does put your opponent into some pretty awkward situations late game. Once you start spreading that damage, it just gets really difficult to play around, right? Especially for a deck like Pikarom that has a bunch of benched Vs and GXs. So obviously the game is not over here by any means. He does have that Choo-Choo, but putting all the energy on Choo-Choo now, knowing that it can't one-shot anything, I do think the right call was getting the Alolan Sandshrew out, though, because if I was able to have this type of turn but with the Alolan Sandshrew, then that would have just been game over. So he did, the right thing, I believe, but boy, howdy, it's not looking great. It's not looking great for Ryan here, but he obviously does have another option here, which is the Choo-Choo Paralysis, right? All he has to do is hit into it once. It's only got 320 HP, so 2 hits is really all it needs. So if he can hit into it once, and he has not used his GX, so he could still do the 200 attack the following turn, just manually retreat, right? So yeah, I believe here Fioned just to get the I think I Fioned to get that out of the active, but I can't remember exactly. You'll know better than I. But yeah, I think at this point we're just sort of like, okay, I think I knocked something out, and I'm going down to 2 prizes here. Yeah. So this is pretty, it's pretty crazy how all these Pokemon have so much damage on the board. And, my win con is like, I just have to attack once more with one of these Pokemon. That's all. I've got 3 energy on one, 4 energy on another. I just need one more attack, and there's a training court on the field. So, he might be able to find his Chaotic Swell here to bump the court, and, maybe if he can Crushing Hammer, get rid of some energy, put me in an awkward spot where I don't have enough energy. Maybe. That's another option, I think, for Ryan here, without knowing what's in his prizes. But, yeah, apologies for the camera thing. It just got real weird. So I think we're just sort of discussing now, what, so he's going to reset, which is really good, right? Like I had, he didn't know what I had in hand, but he's going to go for that Choo-Choo Paralysis. That is his win con, is paralyze, make it so I can't, get out of the act. I'm going down to 2 prizes, so the odds of me finding a switching out are not necessarily the highest. But you can see there, I drew into the switch. So basically, it's game over at this point, having the switch, having already played the reset stamp. I don't believe, unless he can bump the court, the training court, and hit Crushing Hammer heads, and, maybe I don't have an energy, which I don't. That would be his only other situation. Obviously, Ryan doesn't know this, because Ryan is, not able to see my cards like I am. So I think we're just still sort of discussing all of the different tactics here, the different things he could have done, and paralysis. And obviously he couldn't have known that I could get the Galarian Darmanitan VMax powered up like that, which certainly puts him in an awkward spot here. But I will be commentating the rest of this game as well as the second game that I have in this series, because the audio gets kind of funky, it kind of gets crackly after this little OBS glitch here. So Ryan here checking their prizes. I wonder what he's looking for. Maybe he's checking the Crushing Hammers. How many Crushing Hammers are in there? Let's see. It's got 1, 2, I believe maybe 3 Crushing Hammers in there. 1, 2, 3, yeah. And I believe the last Crushing Hammer may very well be in the prizes, which would not be great. That is not ideal for Ryan. So he's going to research, just sort of thin the deck out a little bit. After already having played the reset stamp, I'm sure he's feeling fairly confident here. He's got a Dedenne if he wanted to draw any more, which I don't think he really necessarily needs to do, but he did get the other Chaotic Swell, which is huge. But not having access to the Crushing Hammer, you still play the Swell, no matter what. I think you still play the Swell. But you're kind of just hoping this paralysis sticks at this point. Riveting gameplay, I know. Is Ryan checking his prizes again, perhaps? I'm not really sure what else he would be looking for. I am trying to think like what maybe Ryan was thinking about, but I'm really positive here that the paralysis is probably the only option. He's already played research, so he can't boss. He may have, I don't believe his deck plays any Tool Scrappers. That would be the kind of card. I said it on the podcast a week ago or 2 weeks ago that Tool Scrapper is just potentially a very powerful card right now. As you can see, Tool Scrapper is preventing that Pikarom. I gave that Pikarom an extra 10 HP, which is kind of awkward. And then, yeah, it's a good card. So he's just sort of preventing some sort of, if he paralyzes me and then I try to just boss his order for a turn, he is playing that so he has no Pokemon that can't retreat. Tapu Koko V has free retreat, so I think that's a good call on Ryan's part. And I'm clearly not playing any, Absols or anything here. think he's maybe debating whether or not to play Dedenne down. But having attached, I'm not really sure if that's what he's got in hand that he's waiting to play. Okay. Still just sort of chilling out here. Chilling out as we wait. Yeah, he's going to do the play, retreat, see if he can paralyze me. He's going to Dedenne here. I guess getting rid of all those research, which he doesn't really need at this point. He just needs that paralysis to stick. I'm not sure. Oh, you know, I think we might have discussed this. Maybe the Crushing Hammer he knows is on the bottom, and he was really hoping he had a way to shuffle his deck. Because I believe that the Crushing Hammer, if I'm remembering correctly, the Crushing Hammer may have been the prize card that he forgot to take on the previous turn. Then he picked it up later, and then I Marnied. So he had to shuffle it to the bottom. But the problem is because he picked it up a little late, he just put it straight onto the bottom and it wasn't shuffled. But I'm just showing him, yeah, I have the switch, we have the out, and we are going to go to game 2 here. Galarian Darmanitan able to make a pretty big comeback here. So the video will come back not too far in the future. It will come back, so we will be able to, yeah, he was saying the energy switch, but the Crushing Hammer was at the very bottom of his deck, so he wasn't going to be able to dig for it, even if he wanted. Which is unfortunate. That's very unfortunate. But as you can kind of see there, Galarian Darmanitan has that comeback potential because of the massive damage spread. It's just one of those cards that if you can get it up and rolling and survive long enough, because it's a beefy-ish Pokemon, if you can survive long enough that you can spread a bunch of damage on the field, the amount of prizes you're going to take against a variety of different decks is just astronomical. So you put your opponent on a pretty tight clock, right? To say, you have to stop me attacking for a turn or two by knocking me out or whatever, or win the game before I have the opportunity to put enough damage to take multiple Crobats or Crobat into Dedenne or whatever it might be. I think, honestly, against something like Eternatus VMax, if you hit into Eternatus VMax once, spread 60. You hit into Eternatus VMax again, you take 3 prizes, spread another 60. So, you know, depending on like the order in which you do things, they're only taking 3, maybe 5 prizes if you play things right. And all you got to do is get one more attack off, and really at that point, you're going to take 4 prizes off of 2 Crobats on the bench. And it's not like they can get rid of those. Now, the strategy from Eternatus would probably be just to, once the Eternatus VMAX goes down, don't evolve another one early. And that way you can just discard the Crobats, but then you have less firepower. Not that you need it against Galarian Darmanitan VMAX, but that I think is going to be an interesting thing for Eternatus players out there to consider, is with spread archetypes, with that Goggles, and you have Galarian Darmanitan, you have Blastoise. There's going to be other decks as well coming out. Raikou, right? Amazing Rare. That if you don't need, 270 damage necessarily every turn, that's great at knocking out tag teams, but, you know, for some VMAXs, you're going to have to 2-hit KO them anyways. That you can wait to evolve into that second Eternatus VMAX, so that way you can discard anything that is like any Crobats on the bench that may have damage counters on them. That I think is going to be a way that Eternatus strategies might have to shift, is being more aware of when they evolve and what they can discard when they have to go back down to the normal amount of Pokemon on their bench. So here we're getting set up. I believe Ryan is once again choosing to go second with this Pikarom deck so that he can electrify with Bolton, most likely. On the rare chance that you get the full blitz, that's great, but that's unlikely to happen. So starting with Bolton here is very good, again, for Ryan. He doesn't have to do any weird shenanigans necessarily to get into that electrify. I'm starting the Alolan Sandshrew, which is not ideal, to be honest. He's going to be able... I could evolve into it, but the problem is that's a card. It's a 1/1 in this deck. You might even think about going for a 2/2 line. It's so powerful. My hand is pretty bad though, right? I don't have any other Pokemon. I have Training Court. I have Dedenne. I could, you know, Pokecom the Dedenne away, but I think at this point I'm just going to ditch this whole hand. I know I have Training Courts. I know I've got Nessas. And let's see if we can draw into something more playable. So we do. We draw into a Galarian Darmanitan V and a Quick Ball that can get us our Snom. So that is literally all we were looking for in here. We did lose some Capacious Buckets, which really stinks, losing those buckets. But I didn't want to throw too much energy into the discard. That would, you know, even with Nessas, you know, you may have to, like, I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, I probably can't play Nessa next turn because I need to draw with research, so I won't be able to get all that energy back necessarily. But I'll throw one energy away now. Go get the Snom. I'm pretty sure here. Just go get a Snom and see how we go from there. But I would say this is a pretty good setup. You know, aside from leading the Sandshrew, I quite like this setup. Obviously, you get a Snom and a Galarian Darmanitan V on turn 1. You're always going to be happy with that. And attaching the telescopic sight. Can't remember if he plays Tool Scrapper. He may, but yeah, it's always hard to remember some of these things in retrospect as you're watching the videos back. So here I'm just like, okay, I've only got a 2-card hand, you know, but one of them is research, right? So it's like, okay, I've got something. I got 1 energy attached for turn because I could use the Training Court, and then we can just pass it over. That's all you can really ask for on turn 1 of this deck. So we see here Ryan has a Dedenne in hand, which is good. Let's see what else he has. He has the Quick Ball. You can put an energy in the discard right away. So let's see if he chooses to go get Tapu Koko and then Dedenne, or if he chooses to go get Pikarom, perhaps. So checking his prizes, seeing what's in here. I think he does make an interesting play here. If I remember correctly, I believe he makes a play that I initially, like when I was talking to him, I sort of questioned. I was like, with your first Quick Ball of the game to go get that Pokemon, you must have a very interesting hand indeed. If I remember correctly, I think he goes and gets Tapu Koko V for that free retreat. Which, look, the free retreat is never bad, but it was such an interesting play from my perspective in terms of priority. I think you can see in a second, though, why he does all this. It ends up working out for him in the end. But, you know, on the surface, this certainly does look like an odd play. I mean, we know he has Dedenne in hand, but, like, why not go get Tapu Koko Prism? Or, like, because, you know, that Dedenne, you can Dedenne yourself into a pretty unusable hand, too. Always possible. Yeah, putting the Tapu Koko down. Going to be switching into the Tapu Koko, so he has free retreat now. Just giving himself a pivot for whatever he wants for this Dedenne. So that, in retrospect, that does make sense because he just gives himself that pivot. He was going to ditch the switch anyways. But still, I think like the bench space, I don't know, it just feels like a lot of commitment just to have a free pivot. But, you know, I think it works out. I think it works out in the end. Hopefully we get these cameras back up and running. So we're going to get a Crushing Hammer here. Once again with the heads on Crushing Hammer. Just so much Crushing Hammer heads. It's like, it's difficult. It's difficult. Get a Quick Ball again. He's got 2 energy in the discard now. He can go grab himself whatever Pokemon he wants other than Dedenne, really. I believe he has Tapu Koko Prism in hand. It's a pretty busted turn 1. Pretty busted turn 1 for Ryan here. To naturally draw into the Tapu Koko Prism, just be able to Quick Ball for that Pikarom, get full value out of the Prism here. 2 energy in the discard. Wonder if he's just checking prizes here. More than likely. Hopefully I notice the camera soon. Future me knows I do fix it at some point. Future me is also impatient. Yep, so we keep the Pikarom. Oh, there we go. I fixed the camera. Now, the only negative about fixing the camera is the audio got messed up. So you're going to hear us talking, but you're not going to hear us talking. You're going to see us talking. But you're going to hear future me. Going to hear future me. So you get to imagine. If you're a good lip reader, you can maybe tell what we're saying. He's going to Marnie us here. So the Marnie, you know, at first it didn't really hurt, right? Because you're like, okay, I got to research into Nessa. I don't want to get rid of Nessa. We draw into, you know, what seems to be a good hand. But in reality, it is a Galarian Darmanitan VMax, 2 Evolution Incense, and a Switch, which is pretty bad. Let's be frank about that. That is pretty lackluster there. So let's see if he has the combo. So he has the Speed Lightning onto Pikarom, draws 2 cards. He's got the Tapu Koko to attach a second energy to Pikarom and 1 to Bolton. If he gets the energy switch, he can pull off the Sandshrew KO, go ahead on the prizes straight up, which is, you know, pretty amazing. Let's be honest here. So I think Ryan may be debating going for Crobat here. Like, is it worth it to try to go for it, right? Like, do you go for the full blitz turn 1? And yeah, he's like, you know what? Let's rock and roll. Let's go for it here. See if we can get ahead on prizes. Because once you take out that Sandshrew, then you're looking at, okay, you knock out a Dedenne, and I can only have to go through 1 of the VMAXs, which makes it a much easier route for Ryan. I believe he's got a 3-card hand, and he is like, okay, if I put this down now, yep, and that he'll open up a bench space. Yeah. Let's see if he can get the energy switch off of this 3-card Crobat. Crobat for 3. 1, 2, and 3. Was it just that kind of game for Ryan? And he hit it. He's saying he hit it there. So we're just like, this is so unfortunate. So unfortunate for our end of the board over here. Because that's gonna make it very difficult to come back. He's gonna power up a lot of stuff. I'm gonna be down my surprise GX attacker over there, and my hand is pretty trash. So this might be a tough game to come back from. Just gonna full blitz, take the knockout. Goodbye, Sandshrew. Seeing if I top deck out of this horrendous hand. I'm not sure that I do, but I do think I'm gonna, because I have the Frostmoth in hand. I think we just go grab the Galarian Darmanitan VMax. And I may grab, because I have another Evolution Incense, and I think the question is, I've already shuffled with 1, but do I want to thin the deck just to see if I can, you know, better my odds of drawing out of this, top decking out of this? Because that Chaotic Swell is very annoying for this deck, because you do play the Trading Courts. And between Trading Court and Nessa, you do have potential ways to get lots of energy, but Swell and Nessa being put on the bottom is just bad. So, oh, I drew into 2 switches. That's pretty terrible. That's pretty terrible. So I think I'm just going to grab another Galarian Darmanitan VMax out, because I'm like, I don't think I'm going to need it. I could have grabbed out the Alolan Sandslash, to be honest, unless it was prized. That probably would have made more sense, just to get it out of the deck, and maybe I can discard it later. Just because, like, look, the Sandshrew's dead. There's nothing, that card ain't doing nothing for the rest of the game. So we're going to evolve into the Frostmoth and just pass it. Literally nothing we can do here. So, interesting, choosing to put the energy onto the Tapu Koko V here. I think, you know, Ryan is going to be left with the decision of whether or not he wants to GX now. He's going to put 1 Speed Lightning onto this Bolton. Does he find a switch card? If he finds a switch, then he can... Okay, yeah, the big charm is good there, because that means my Galarian Darmanitan can't Oko Bolton, because it only does 200 straight up. So, it's definitely an awkward situation here for me. But, you know, I think Ryan does have to make a decision, right? Does he let this Dedenne live 1 more turn, give me another turn to draw out of this? Or Or does he, you know, hard retreat or use his GX attack on this Dedenne? Personally, I think we discussed this. We were just talking about this, and I think that, you know, using the GX attack here, it's like you're probably not going to be using the GX attack on Choo-Choo. The only reason you would not use the GX attack is if you think you can take extra prizes with the Tag Bolt GX on a future turn, but that just means hitting into this Dedenne for 150, and that just feels bad. My opinion, I believe, was just take the 2 prizes. I think he knows I don't play any reset stamps. If you take the 2 prizes here, yeah, I think he's saying, yeah, we're just going to hit it for 200, use the Tag Bolt GX, take the 2 prizes, and basically say all I have to do is exactly what we talked about earlier, go through 1 Galarian Darmanitan VMax. That's all he needs. And he's got so many cards, so many resources left, lots of energy on the board. Now, we do get a pretty good hand here. We draw 3 energy, but I have used the Dedenne already, and it is dead. So the version of this deck, which I might change, I don't believe it has a Crobat in it. I might throw a Crobat into the deck in place of 1 card, because this would be a moment where having a Crobat or a second Dedenne would be absolutely huge. Fion does nothing for me here because he has a free retreater. I could try to set up another Galarian Darmanitan V, just to even thin it out maybe. Or set up a second Snom, perhaps. I think a second Snom isn't terrible because we can say we'll give up this Frostmoth. And then we can still have another Snom into a Frostmoth later on in the game. So I believe current me is looking at this going, yeah, you grab a Snom here. Grab a Snom and say, look, I don't think there's any way I can attack this turn anyways. So let's try to set ourselves up for success after this turn. And just hope that Ryan doesn't have a boss's order. If Ryan has a boss's order here, we can't use Nessa. We have Nessa in hand though, so we can go grab. We have Nessa and Air Balloon. So no reason to put the Air Balloon on in case of Tool Scrapper. We have Nessa, we can go grab that Frostmoth right back and 3 energies. We can grab Frostmoth and another Pokemon maybe, and 2 energy. So he is gonna hit 1 Crushing Hammerheads. So we at least need 2 energy off of that Nessa in hand. So if he doesn't have boss, we definitely are going to be getting 1 attack off and spreading some damage onto the board. Onto this Pikarom, which is, you know, could be difficult for Ryan because, you know, you start setting up damage on things, and if I hit into this Pikachu and Zekrom, then if he doesn't find a big charm, I will be able to knock it out when it's on the bench. So you don't want to give up 5 prizes potentially. So he's missing a couple of heads on these Crushing Hammers. Luckily for me, if he'd hit both of those heads, I don't think there's any way we win this game, because we can't get 4 energy and a Frostmoth with Nessa. So I think one of the things we debate here is what attacker he should use. Because he's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 energy on board. I think you still go with Pikarom just to power up any more energy you can onto the field. I'm just sort of looking through here to count how many energies and Pokemon I've got in here for this Nessa. So Ryan here, he chooses to put down the Choo-Choo. I think in Ryan's brain, we talk about this at the very end. In Ryan's brain, he has energy in deck to power this Choo-Choo up. But as you'll see in a second, he doesn't. He has all of his energy in hand. He does not actually have the ability to power up the Choo-Choo, so that Choo-Choo actually becomes a liability. Now, I understand the paralysis being like a benefit, right? So we're gonna grab the Frostmoth. We're gonna grab 1 energy, I think 2 energy at least. And I think we debate whether or not, oh, did I take 4? No, I just take 3 energy. Good, Sean, good. Don't make silly mistakes. So we're gonna basically go, you know, until we have almost nothing in hand except for 1 energy. So we're gonna power this up. We're gonna attach this Air Balloon here. So we are able to start setting some things up, but we are very much in top deck mode. But the benefit here, and you'll see this in a second, we talk about this. We hit this Pikarom for 200. We do 60 damage to the entire bench. And if you actually look, and this is something I didn't actually notice until later, there are 6 prizes available next turn if we top deck the right card. And that card is Boss's Order. There is no way that Ryan can win next turn. Just straight up. There's no way. Actually, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah, Bolton does not have the ability to get enough energy on to knock this out in one hit. Because even if he does 9 energy, that's only doing 280 damage. If he attaches one more. So he would be 30 damage short. 10 energy would still be not enough. He would need 11 energy. It's just, a little high. And all we need is a boss to boss up the Choo-Choo and assume that Pikachu and Zekrom doesn't have a big charm on it on the end of this turn. And that actually would be enough to win the game, amazingly. Granted, like I said, we're in top deck mode. We don't have the Dene or Crobat left in deck. But it is insane to look at this game and say, if you get a little lucky, there's 2 Boss's Orders in the deck. I'll spoil it now, folks. There's 2 Boss's Orders in that deck. If you were to get a little bit lucky and top deck one of those 2 Boss's Orders left in deck, it would be unimaginable the fact that this deck would have won that matchup against Pikarom. And I think that's what makes this Galarian Darmanitan deck so powerful. Granted, Pikarom has a lot lower HP Pokemon than a lot of VMAXs you might be up against, but spread damage at this degree is just, it's silly. It's genuinely silly. So, I don't know if it is going to be a top tier deck per se, but it is a good deck. It is just, let me tell you right now, this is straight up a good deck. And that's what we're discussing right now, how crazy it is that a top deck is all I need. And yeah, it's just, it makes no sense. It genuinely makes no sense. So we're also, I think we debate here as well, if you're Ryan, what do you go into? You know that Pikachu and Zekrom is getting knocked out next turn no matter what. I'm going to do 200 to it in the active and spread 60, or I'm going to do 200 to something else and spread 60 to it. So there's the debate of if it's going down no matter what, do you get the most value out of this Bolton now? Which I think we debated, and at the time we were like, because if I have boss, I win no matter what. I think we debated and we say, yeah, you know what, maybe you just switch into the Bolton, get as much damage onto this Galarian Darmanitan VMax as you can. Because once this goes down, that Bolton's damage output goes way down. You lose 3 energy, you're losing 100 damage basically. So you lose 100 damage, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You're doing what? 190 plus 150. That's still enough to knock it out. It may not matter entirely, but you don't know. Maybe I play Mallow and Lana, which I don't remember if I do. But if you have a switch, just get as much damage onto this thing as possible. Yeah, you're going to give a bunch of prizes, but you have a 200 damage hitter in Tapu Koko V that can follow up on the following turn. So it doesn't really matter for Ryan. So I think that's why I just lead with the Bolton. Yeah. And, the only out for me at this point is top decking, something outrageous. There may be a world in which I could top deck into a Galarian Darmanitan V, with research and retreat and energy and who knows. Genuinely, I'm looking for boss. I'm looking for a top deck of boss here. And I'm not sure if I got it. I think he's just doing the math, seeing if there's any other cards he wants to play here. That's what Ryan's doing. But I have, 280 damage ready to rock and roll. So he's going to research here. I think dig a little deeper, just maybe so he could find a boss's order in case I retreat. But, at this point in the game, I don't think I'm retreating because a hard retreat has a 3 retreat cost. There's no way I'm powering it up again if Frostmoth goes down. So to me, it doesn't really matter. Hopefully Ryan was able to draw into a boss. He does the 280 damage. What do I top deck? It is not a boss's order. It is a bucket. And a bucket ain't gonna do it. A bucket ain't gonna get there. We're just gonna go grab a couple of energy. And then I'm like, what am I doing? Why am I even playing? I'm gonna take 5 prizes here for the fun, for the memes. We're gonna go ahead on the prize count at the very end of the game. And then that's basically it. So, we do end up taking 5 prizes in one turn, which is nuts. But it doesn't matter, ultimately. It was a concession, I'm putting this onto the Frostmoth because I'm like, I don't know. No, what are you doing, Sean? You can't do nothing here. Yeah, we're going to take those 5 prizes. One of them's probably something that can get us out of this mess, but doesn't matter. And that is the game. All right, well, that was the gameplay. As you could see, the deck, at the beginning of the games, you're just like, is this deck good? Maybe the deck that I have built could be more optimized. I don't play a ton of Frostmoth builds to begin with, so I'm sure there are ways that people have gotten Inteleon and others up that I'm just missing a piece here or there for that. So definitely take the list that I'm going to be sharing, tweak it, with the knowledge you have about Inteleon. But one thing I would say is you could see when you do get it up, it's scary. It comes out of nowhere, right? Like that damage spread is insane, one. And it really, we've talked about this. It sets a clock for the opponent, a kind of like 2-3 turn clock where you're like, if I can continuously attack and you have things on the bench, you have 2 or 3 turns basically to win the game, which, many decks can certainly do. But I think that's a pretty crazy statement for any deck to make if it's not ADP, right? So hopefully you enjoy this. I think Galarian Darmanitan does certainly have a lot of potential. Weak to metal. We're not gonna talk about that. Weakness to metal. We'll leave that somewhere else. We'll figure that out later. But yeah, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thank you so much for watching and spending the time with the channel. And subscribe if you like this stuff. Just saying. Anyways, I'll catch you in a future episode. Carpe awesome.